Welcome back to the AAA MF YouTube channel. Today we're going to be testing this GT2 RS. Welcome to the GT2 RS. I've waited a long time to get my hands on one of these. I have featured a GT2 RS in previous videos, but that was in the drag races, and we did one with a 720S, and the GT2 RS won 2 out of 3 races. Now, there was a lot of complaints on that video about the 720S not getting off the line quickly, and we are going to do that video again because the 720S tyres weren't warm enough. But today what we're going to do is a road review. We're not doing a track review and we're not doing a drag race. We're going to see what this car is like to drive as a road car. Now, we're sitting in Boca Raton in Florida and we are in traffic, so it's a really good test of what the car is like. The air conditioning is really good because it's really sticky outside. I've been driving this car now for half an hour, so I can give you kind of a summary of what it's like. It feels very, very much like a track car because the car is really, really firm. So when you're driving along and you're pushing it, it bounces around. So can't really do it because Ben next to me is holding the camera and it's going to be a bit shaky if we drive too hard. But when you're driving along and you're pushing the car, it starts bouncing around as you would expect from a hardly sprung track car. So the suspension is hard. Now, the PDK gearbox is fairly smooth, but it always feels like it wants to go and wants to go. It doesn't ever really settle into a nice, quiet idle. So driving around town is not that nice in this car. It's not the best car for city driving. What I love most about this car though is the looks. I think that the styling of the GT2 RS is absolutely incredible. That front spoiler sits so deep, it just looks menacing, especially if you're in front of the GT2 RS and one is coming up behind you, like when I was back in the south of France and I was in my Boxster Spider. It just looks incredible, and that huge rear wing at the back looks really menacing. What's really nice about the wing is it's so high you can actually see in between the boot of the car, or the lid of the car, and the spoiler. You can see in between the two, so the spoiler doesn't obstruct any of your rear vision. Now, I've got to talk about the speed of this car, because obviously people that want this car want the fastest production Porsche they make, and this car is ridiculously fast. Ben, are you ready? Here we go. Whoa, whoa, and there's the speed limit. So what's really nice is the PDK gearbox. We're in PDK Sport. It just bounces off of 7,000 in each gear, and you just accelerate to the horizon faster than anything I've been in other than a McLaren 720. What's funny is this feels very, very different to the 720. Obviously the 720 is mid-engine, this is rear engine. They're both rear wheel drive and they've both got very similar power. But the 720S does the power delivery much smoother, and it almost feels like a completely different power delivery. The 720S is a much smoother car all round. So if you're looking for a car with 700 brake horsepower that you can drive around town and use as a daily, the 720 hands down. This one really feels like a track car, and feels really, I can't remember what I drove that was similar to this, but it kind of jerks a lot. Let's take it out of PDK Sport and see if it's a bit smoother in PDK without the sport mode. Yeah, it's smoother without that. That's better. But it's still not as comfortable as a 720S. The 720S really blends that amazing comfort with phenomenal speed. I would say that though, that when you're accelerating hard, this car gives you much more of a shove in the back than the 720 though. So it really depends what you're looking for in a car. This car, for me, is a track car, and if I was gonna spend 300, I think they're £350,000 on one of these, it would only be if I was taking it to the track. So we've been driving for a while now. We've put it into PDK, not PDK Sport, and it is a lot smoother. It's much better. It's still a little bit jerky though. What's interesting, I think, is comparing prices, because if you want a car with this much power, the 720 is a lot cheaper. It's almost half the price in the UK, and you get exactly the same bang for the buck. Will this hold its value? I think that's a really interesting question, because obviously it's turbocharged, and the whole range of Porsche 911s are now turbocharged, and most manufacturers are going turbocharged. So this doesn't stand out as a manual car, it doesn't stand out because of the engine. So I'm not sure that this car is going to stop depreciating over time. Yes, it's an iconic car. Yes, it's amazing round the track. The power is insane. But for me, I mean, I've got the GT3 RS 4 litre. For me, that's a much more rewarding driving experience. Talking of GT3 RS 4 litres and naturally aspirated cars, why don't we compare this to the best naturally aspirated Porsche that they make, which is the 991.2 GT3 RS, because that also has a PDK gearbox. So it'd be quite interesting to compare that car to this car. So why don't we jump into one of those? GT2 RS. Finally, I got to drive one. It's not as good as I thought it would be, but this should be as good as I think it's gonna be. As you know, I love naturally aspirated engines, and this is the best naturally aspirated engine Porsche do. So we got, oh no, which key we got? GT3 RS. Let's jump in.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, should we show people the interior first? Nice. Racing seats, yellow seat belts, gorgeous. These bucket seats are nice and comfortable for me. Now Ben, if you go behind, I want people to hear this beautiful engine start up. Let's go, Ben. So let's go. So we've got PDK gearbox, we've got the PDK Sport button, the exhaust button there. So let's leave it in normal PDK now, and we'll have the exhaust on. I really hope that this is more fun to drive than the GT2 RS. There's been a huge demand from Porsche customers for naturally aspirated engines, and Porsche have listened to their customers and they've delivered. And I have back home in London a 981 Boxster Spider, which I absolutely love. It's got a 3.8 litre flat six engine, and it only pumps out about 375 brake horsepower, but it's so much fun and it sounds so good. OMG. Woo! Whoa! This car is incredible. Okay, we're gonna slow down now. This car is incredible. We're not even in PDK Sport. Did you feel that? Oh, you can't feel that acceleration. Maybe you could see that acceleration. Ben, what did you think of that? Wow, wow, wow! This is so much better than the GT2 RS. Who thought I'd say that? So we've been driving in this car now for about half an hour. The PDK Sport doesn't make a huge amount of difference. I've had it on and off, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. But what is incredible about this car is it revs all the way up to 9,000 RPM, and it does it in such a savage, lovely, linear way. And the sound on this car is absolutely incredible. I love it. I haven't driven a naturally aspirated car, Porsche car, that I've enjoyed other than my 4 litre till I've got into this car, and that's saying a lot. This car sounds absolutely incredible. I'm going to show you one time. So we're in 3rd gear, and when it hits like 7,000 RPM, it just shrieks. It's really nice. It's really nice. You could use this as a daily. This is really comfortable when you're not pushing it. Like I said, the PDK Sport doesn't make a lot of difference. It's not jerky with or without. I really like it. I really like it. So the one bad thing about my car, the 4 litre, is it's a manual gearbox, which means you can't use it as a daily car. It's just horrible putting your foot on the clutch, and the clutch is not light in that car. But this has a PDK, which means you can use this daily. So I really like it. I really like it. You like it too, Ben, don't you? Yes, he's nodding. Yes, he likes it too. So this car's only got a small amount of mileage on it. So we're going to go back to the dealership. We're going to get the 2 cars side by side, and we're going to give you a full summary of what I think of both cars. GT2 RS, GT3 RS. You wouldn't think this is a fair comparison because this is nearly double the price and 200 brake horsepower more than the GT3 RS. However, I prefer this car. This is much more exciting to drive. Now let's talk about why. This car is really designed for the track. It's got a very hard, flat suspension, which means when you're driving along, it bounces around, a little bit like my 4 litre. It bounces around on the road. It only goes up to 7,000 RPM, and I've been told that on the track, it actually is a little bit unpredictable because the turbo cuts in when you don't want it to. Third of all, it is not very comfortable to drive. If you put it into PDK Sport, it jerks around, and in PDK, it's not bad, but it's still not a very comfortable car to drive. The acceleration is absolutely sensational. It's up there with 720, with the feeling you get being pushed back into the seat. Yes, it's sensationally fast. Would I want one? Definitely not. I jumped into this car hoping it would be as good as I thought it would be, and it was. It lived up to expectations. This car goes up to 9,000 RPM, and you feel the engine going all the way up to 9,000 RPM, and you've got a grin on your face when it's getting there, and it sounds incredible. Does it sound as good as a V10 Lamborghini? Maybe not. But the overall package, with these superb gold wheels, and these are 325s, they're the same size as the GT2 RS. I think these give the GT3 RS a really, really mean stance, and I love the spec on this car. Now remember, this car is also a Weissach pack, so it's got the carbon roof, and it's got the carbon front bonnet, and it's got all the insignia inside, and it's 18 kilograms lighter than the standard 991.2 GT3 RS. What's interesting for me is that this car is much better than the 991.1 GT3 RS. So if you're considering to buy the 991.1 or the 991.2, go for this. I believe the difference is around £30,000 in the UK now. I think it's 150 for a GT3 RS, maybe 160, and these are about 180. Definitely worth the extra money. Now, what's interesting, I think, is to compare this maybe to the Lamborghini Huracan Performante, because the Performante is now £170,000, which to me is an absolute bargain, because that car is so good. It looks incredible. The V10 is such a beautiful engine. The only thing I don't like about the Performante are the seats. The race seats are too hard, and the comfort seats are not comfortable, because I had a Performante Spider and the comfort seats weren't comfortable. This has the bucket seats, which are really actually quite nice, and I think as a package this might be easier to live with than a Performante. But I think that's a really interesting debate whether to have this or a Performante, because both have beautiful naturally aspirated engines that rev all the way up, and they're both incredibly fun to drive. So very impressed with this car. Really like it. You know, it's really rare that I get into a car on a YouTube video and think I want to buy one of these. The last time it happened was when I got out of a Aston Martin GT8 Vantage. That car sounded so incredible. The gearbox was so nice. The interior was beautiful. You felt like James Bond in that car. This is one of the very rare cars I've jumped out of and thought, I want to own one of them. So for me, that's quite a big debate whether I get one of these or whether I get a Performante next, because I'm thinking about Performante now. They've come down to about 170. So we'll come back to that in a later YouTube session. The next video probably see we'll be back in grey, rainy London to film, but we've got amazing content coming up, including, I can't say what we've got, but we've got some amazing content coming up. So please follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and we'll see you soon.